Comparing fractions with like denominators or like numerators. Hi everyone, it's Miss Beryl, and we're going to be talking about comparing fractions with like denominators. If we have a fraction with a like denominator, remember that they're called like fractions. And when we have like fractions, they're fairly easy to compare because the pieces are the same size. So, as you can see above, if you look at the two pictures, both of the circles have the same size pieces, and both are cut into 4. We can see the 4 pieces. That will become your denominator. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a denominator of 4. Then we look to see how many are shaded in this instance. In the red section, we see 3 are shaded. 1, 2, 3. And in the blue, we see 2. 1, 2. Now, besides just looking at them and knowing right off the top that the red is bigger than the blue, we can look at the fraction. And the fraction also tells us the same thing. The fraction says that we have two pies, and they each have the same number of pieces in the pie. So the 4 and the 4 are the same. But one of them we're referring to 3 pieces, and one we're referring to 2. So obviously, you're talking about more pieces in the pie, in the one in the left, the red one. So when you have denominators that are the same, all you need to do is look at the numerator, and whichever is greater, that whole fraction is going to be greater. Since 3 is bigger than 2, it makes our whole fraction 3/4 greater than 2/4. Let's move on to our next objective of comparing fractions with like numerators. So when we're looking at fractions, and if they don't have the same denominator, they may have the same numerator. So let's see how we go ahead and do that if, in fact, they do have the same numerator. Let's count. We have 1, 2, 3 parts to our whole on the red fraction model, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts to the whole on the blue fraction model. In looking at this, I'd ask myself, which one has bigger pieces? Well, the red one has bigger pieces. They're bigger because there's only 3 pieces to that, let's call it a pie. Okay, so there's 3 pieces to that pie, and this one is smaller pieces because there are 5 pieces to the pie. So let's go ahead now and figure out what our numerator is. On the red one, our numerator is 2, of course, and on the blue one, it's also 2 because, after all, we are talking about like numerators. Now, if I get 2 pieces from the red pie, am I going to have more or less than 2 pieces from the blue pie? I'm going to have more because the pieces are bigger. If I have a pie cut into only 3 pieces and I get 2 pieces of it, I am definitely going to have more pie than if I cut my pie into 5 pieces and only take 2 pieces. So when we have like numerators, what we have to do is we look at the denominator, this number here. And the rule is the smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction. So only when you have like numerators though, smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction. Okay, go ahead and repeat it. The smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction. Only when we have like numerators. Only when we have like numerators. So, let's take a look at this. The smaller the denominator, which one's the smaller denominator? The 3. The larger the fraction. Well, that whole fraction's larger. So, I'm going to go ahead and circle that one so you can see that 2/3 is larger than 2/5. And we can tell that by looking at the picture. I can put my greater than sign in there. 2/3 is larger than 2/5. So remember, anytime your fractions have the same numerator and you're comparing them, look down below at the denominator. And the smaller the denominator, the larger the fraction, because the pieces are bigger. And that's it. Now let's go ahead and practice what we've learned. We learned that when we have the same denominator, we need to look at the numerators, and when we have the same numerators, we need to look at the denominators. Our first fraction model on the left has the same denominators on each one. They both have 5. And we are going to compare them, and our rule states that the fraction with the larger numerator should be the bigger fraction. So it should be 4/5 that is bigger than 3/5. But let's go ahead and draw out our fraction model. I've got a rectangle here. I'm going to split it in half, and the top half will represent 4/5, and the bottom half will represent 3/5. I like to do it this way because it's easier for me to tell which one's bigger if the fraction models are stacked right on top of each other. I need a total of 5 parts. Since I need 5 parts in each one, that means I have to draw 4 lines because that'll give me 5 parts. So I'm going to carefully draw 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that gives me 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now what I need to do is I need to shade in. I need to shade in 4/5 on the top model. This whole top half here is going to represent the first fraction. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the bottom one, I have to shade in 3/5. 1, 2, 3. It's a little hard to see, but you can tell that the one that is shaded in most is 4/5. So our rule worked out. 4/5 is greater than 3/5. Now let's take a look at the other fraction model here with the one with the numerators are the same. I'm again going to slice this rectangle in half, and we're going to draw our number of parts. First of all, though, let's review the rule. We have numerators are the same, which means we need to look at the denominators. And the rule states that if the smaller denominator is going to be the larger fraction. So when the numerators are the same, the fraction with the smaller denominator is going to be the larger value fraction. Let's check it out and see if that works. It should be this one then, because 4 is smaller than 8. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my 3/4 is going to be up at top, and my 3/8 is going to be at the bottom. I need to make 4 sections, so I will need 3 lines. And I'm going to just go all the way through, and then I'm going to cut the bottom one in half. That's hard. All right, there we go. Okay, almost. Now I have 4 sections for the top fraction, but the bottom one, I need 8 parts in the whole. So I'm just going to go like this and turn it into 8 parts. Now I need to shade in my fraction. For the top, I'm going to shade in 3 of the 4 parts. And the bottom, I need to shade in 3 of the 8 parts. So 1, 2, always start on the same side and follow the same direction. It'll be much easier for you. So there's my 3 of the 8. That's this one right here. And then the top is the 3/4. Which one has more shaded? Well, 3/4 has much more shaded. So my rule held true. 3/4 is greater than 3/8. Good job.